All right. Week 1 is a huge week for many, many teams. This 2022 season, as I said, is so jam-packed with storylines. There's crossroads everywhere for players and coaches and teams. Forks in the road where you're going to really get a strong evaluation of all these coaches and players and teams based on how they head. And for the Dolphins, week 1 is massive. But as you go through the news, you see that for week 1 for the Patriots is just as big. Now, the Dolphins, my team, as you can see, my little thing over here, I cover Dolphins mostly. I've been doing a lot of other teams because that's what I want to do here. Dolphins, they don't want to open up with a loss at home against the Patriots. That would be disastrous, considering you got to go to the Ravens, you got the Bills back at home, then you got a short week and go to Cincy. With all this backdrop of dysfunction, again, from upper management, Dolphins must at least take this week 1 because they've got to prove this season, not that they're better than the Bills. If they're not better than the Bills and they get second and they make the playoffs, they're on track. But they can't be third. They can't miss the playoffs. So this week 1 game is a must win because you don't want to have to lose. You don't want to lose this game and then have to win against the Patriots up in the cold late in the season. But the Patriots in the same token. When you hear the news now, Dolphins last year, they were considered a bit of a joke with the 3 OCs. 3 OCs that were in 1 OC, and it was just a disaster. Now, there's mitigating factors to understand why this is. Just they weren't just that bad. I mean, they weren't good, but lots of stuff going into that. But now you hear in the 3 OCs are in the Patriots land leading Mac Jones, who had an excellent first rookie season. Not great, but excellent. And this 3 OC thing is getting a little bit of steam, and it's bringing a little bit of concern. And Bill Belichick is now at the crossroads. Can't take anything away from what this guy's done. I mean, you got all the scandals and all this stuff. But the one mitigating factor that people are now applying to his coaching pedigree and resume is no Brady. What have you done without Brady? And he has a quarterback that showed success. They went to the playoffs. They won second in the division. A step back after McDaniels goes away to the Raiders would be a bad look, and it could start changing the perception of Bill Belichick and certainly of this Patriots team. A lot of people don't think this team is going anywhere. And this storyline of 3 OCs and a bit of dysfunction kind of parallels what happened last year with the Dolphins. But this does not mean they're going to end up with the same results. And I think there is some concern, but there's also some mitigating factors that alter the possibility of it not being a chateau disaster like it was last year with Miami. So I want to get into that stuff. Before I do, I just want to say thank you for all you guys stopping by, the likes, the subscribes, and the views. That's really great. I'm really grateful for that. I want to give a quick shout out to my sponsor, Ace Per Head, because without them, this show ain't happening. Ace Per Head's betting software is the premier white label platform for bookies to manage their players and grow their sportsbook operation. Click the link in the description below to get set up in minutes. Ask for the Curtis promo and get a special introductory discount. All right, I'm so desperate for film. I'm tired of prognostication, hypothesis, conjecture, assumption. Usually I love it, but I'm so desperate to see so many different things, especially where my Dolphins are at. I'm just tired of it. So I watched the Hall of Fame game. Not the full part, but most of it. And something popped out dramatically. First, I'm going to cover it in someplace else, but media is kind of ridiculous. You know, Jacobs got too many carries, and whoa. I could cover that someplace else. But what did pop out to me is I don't know if McDaniels is ever going to be a good head coach, but I know that guy is a good OC. Being a good OC is getting to feel the waves of momentum. Being ahead of that wave and getting that play called out in the right moment to be ahead of the defense and to guess ahead of them so you can get that play off. And McDaniel is unbelievable with knowing when to call screens and where. And you saw a lot of it. You could just really feel he has a strong understanding of the ebbs and flows and the directions of the defense. Now, there's a long way from here to there to guess what's going on because it is preseason on, but you can definitely feel that. And this kind of ties into this 3-OC things with the Patriots. McDaniels is a good one, and he will be missed. How much? We'll see. Now, I was reading an article on The Athletic, and this is a quote. It's great this time of year because fortunately all the plays are just scripted in a row and you can kind of just read down through them from that standpoint. But what's good is that we are all sharing responsibilities based on what periods we're at in practice. So from that aspect of it, it's structured, I would say. We all kind of handle, all the coaches, all the way across the board. We kind of work together. Coach Belichick obviously helps us a lot, too. It's a big divide to conquer, a big divide and conquer at some points where we have a lot of work to get done through the course of the night. And everybody really understands what we have to do. Now, what is not a quote is an assumption by the writer of the article. Based on the flow of the New England's offseason program, Patricia's comments, the Patriots will create offensive game plans and make game day calls by committee, though he'll have a prominent voice in that area. This is exactly what happened last year with the Dolphins, and it didn't go well. Now, it got better as the season progressed, if you remember. There are some differences, and there is some mitigating circumstances that I'm going to talk about why I think this could possibly not be a disaster like it was with Miami. Now, the coaches last year weren't as good or as accomplished as the 3-OCs here in New England. They also didn't have a functional offensive line. It was a historical bad offensive line. I mean, and I'm not just saying that. This probably was the worst offensive line by far that I had seen in my 43 years of watching Miami Dolphins football. And even PFF, whatever you think about them, they said it was historically bad. So it doesn't matter how good a coach you are. If you have a bad offensive line, you're going to struggle. Now, this doesn't say that they had a good offensive line, they would have been good. But the Patriots do have a much, much better offensive line than the Dolphins did last year. And then two, you've got head coaches, you've got defensive coordinators, and all-time great coming together in this committee, which is different than a running back coach, a tight end coach, and a quarterback coach. So there's two levels here. But this is not, to me, the best case scenario because at times, with many voices, you get lots of wisdom and input. But in the heat of a game, it can get to be too many Chiefs and not enough Indians. And that's not, you can miss beats when you don't have an absolute leader. To defer to the Patriots, they're doing something else that wasn't done last year. Now, the Patriots last year had a very complex verbiage, and they talked about how getting to the line of scrimmage, there really wasn't much time on the clock, and Mac Jones couldn't control the line of scrimmage, get plays off and make adjustments and all this other stuff. He was kind of crammed for time way too much. And what they did this year is to cut the verbiage down to get to that, get out of that huddle and get to the line of scrimmage so Mac Jones can then use his abilities to navigate the situation. Now, the way plays come out of the huddle and they're handed to the quarterback, there's from no flexibility to vast flexibility. You can go from even what Dan Marino had in his last season, I believe, with Jimmy Johnson, where the play was called, that was it. Whatever happened, happened. And then you can go all the way to Peyton Manning with, oh my, and like everything's all over the place. And then there's all the various different scales in between. And what it looks like, they're going to create a framework and give it to Mac Jones. And then from that framework, there'll be branches depending on situations. I don't know how many branches. I don't understand. I don't know the particulars. But there's going to be enough branches where Mac Jones is going to be able to manipulate the situation. Now, how good will he do? I don't know. Some Dolphin fans didn't like the fact that I said that Mac Jones prepared better than Tua. But it's a fact. Doesn't mean he's smarter. Doesn't mean he's the most awesome guy in the universe. But it does mean that a guy who has no physical talent other than maybe being a slightly tall has to find some way to the NFL. And Mac Jones, his only way was trying to win in preparation and trying to read through things. And you could see last year in zone defense, he was masterful. In man defense, he struggled because he lacks certain physical skills, and all his eggs are kind of in that mental basket. And the truth be told, that if any quarterback throws that much time and effort into the mental basket, they're going to do well. They're going to do much better. But not every quarterback does that. Certain quarterbacks have high-level gifts. Dan Marino, his Wonderlic score was like, okay? He lived on instinct and just amazing peripheral vision. And if you remember, the zone blitz, he was caught all the time in that for many, many years because he relied on his instincts and vision, and they would show him something and he would react, but what he was shown wasn't really what was. So it depends what kind of quarterback you are and where you want to put your time and how much your time you're going to put it. Mac Jones, his only avenue is this avenue. Now he's conditioned himself. He's dropped weight, they're saying, and trying to create better velocity on the football, trying to work on his technique. And that's the other avenue that he has to go. So we're going to get to see what Mac Jones. I don't see Mac Jones as Joe Burrow. I don't see Mac Jones as even Russell Wilson, or certainly not Peyton Manning. He doesn't have that level of acumen. Because you can see he threw picks to Howard, and he didn't see Howard sitting at the outside. He had an understanding of the internal part, but he didn't see the exterior, where a guy like Peyton Manning, even like Joe Burrow, these guys have a higher level of acumen. Now, this is an important factor, though. This 3 OC thing, it's all going to fall on the OCs, but Mac Jones is going to be the guy to make or break this little avant-garde system they have. Now, last year, according to the article, he had a solid Pro Bowl rookie campaign with 3,800 yards, 22 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, 67.6 completion rate. They're going to need to bolster that. And they're going to need to pick that up and at least, 10 or 20%. Or else they're going to have struggles because the Dolphins are going to be able to put up points. Bills are going to be able to put points on. There's a lot of other teams that added a lot of assets to put points on. This is going to start determining where Mac Jones is going to be, whether it was just an anomaly and a nice rookie season that's going to kind of peter out. It's going to talk about Bill Belichick. Is Bill Belichick made by Brady, or was he equal parts, or did he make Brady? If he can get Mac Jones to rise even to 80% of Brady, then I think we understand back to the original narrative where Belichick is one of the greatest of all times. And that's where we are, but I don't know. This week one now has just huge implications for the Patriots and huge implications for the Dolphins. Both these teams are going to meet opening day, and they're going to have big bits to their 2022 storyline. And it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed. This is Curtis saying thanks for staying to the end. Please like, comment, subscribe. Catch you next time. Be well. Start building your own online sports book today by getting signed up with AceBread.com service that'll allow you to book action on sports from all around the world.